What's up, y'all? It's T-Tar, and today we're going to be looking at the code of the DLC to find secrets hidden in it. Now, we can't escape this. Game Freak has left these. People are going to talk about it, so we're going to talk about it too. So I've gone ahead and gathered all the secrets hidden in the code, and we're going to talk about it in this video. And we're starting off with this one, Diplin. There are 7 Pokemon introduced in the DLC in this order here, but for some reason with Scarlet and Violet, the Pokemon are out of order in the code itself. It confused a lot of people during the main game, and this is how it turns up for the DLC. So 10-11 Ogerpon, 10-12 Diplin, then there's an empty slot before the Loyal 3. So this opens up the idea that Diplin might evolve in the Teal mask. Diplin is also Kieran's signature Pokemon, so it would make sense if he comes back in the Blueberry Academy DLC that he's evolved it further, and that's why they have that empty slot in the code. There's also the cool riddle, which seems to make perfect sense if it was Diplin evolving with the 2 Applins inside, but there's one hole here, which is that just because there's a slot doesn't mean it's for Diplin's evolution. It could just be a new Pokemon that'll be in the Indigo Disk. And so there's one way to test it, which shouldn't work because Game Freak should have scrubbed this, but it works. Apparently, if you give Diplin an Eviolite, its defenses get boosted, and the game data seems to imply there's an evolution. It looks like it's happening. So these two are just stupid. Everyone should just get Diplin. You see, these 3 stats are the same base stat total. Diplin's gonna shoot further if it evolves. It's gonna hit the 500s. These are all the new abilities introduced in the first DLC. There are 4 more slots down here. So pretty much before Game Freak released the first DLC, they try to erase what they programmed for the second one, but they left behind the empty slots. Remember the glimmering charm you can get, which increases Terra shards? Well, there's about 70 other items that come after in the Indigo Disk. There are gonna be some important items probably intertwined in this, but according to Matt, who's been digging through these, a lot of them will probably be materials, you know, to make more TMs. For moves, here are the 4 moves from the DLC. There are 15 other slots that come after. This could be, you know, Archaludon's signature move. I mean, there's 15 is a lot. And then maybe the most important of them all, and it's not final, you know, you never know if they might add more, is the amount of Pokemon. So there's the slot after Diplin, and then there's another 7 that are in the code. So 8 new species, right? We can try to predict these. There should be Raging Bolt and Iron Crown, then Paradox, Entei, and Terrakion, then Archaludon and Terrapagus. That makes 6 Pokemon we know that should take up these slots, which leaves 2 brand new Pokemon. One of them might have been hinted by Ku with this riddle, some tree that's supposed to indicate a new Pokemon. But this is also the slot that might be Diplin's evolution, so we'll see there. And the last Pokemon, a good idea, is the mythical for this region. So this would be like the 600 BST Pokemon like Victini and Celebi that would be at the end of the decks. Maybe it doesn't actually play a role in the games, it could be just for the sake of being released alongside a movie, but that makes up the 8 Pokemon. And there seems to be slots for another 27 or so TMs, going all the way down to TM 229. And there's one last look to take at these. So here are some text lines that are added in the code, and this is concerning forms. We've highlighted 4 Pokemon in the code that seems to have forms indicated for them. So for example, Pokemon 10-11 in the code only is Ogerpon. So we have base Ogerpon, which isn't included here. Then we have its first form, second form, and third form. So that totals 4 for Ogerpon, which lines up. Then there's Pokemon 1021. If we go back to the earlier slide, 1021 is one of the blanked out Pokemon. But since it's coming quite near the end, maybe it's Terrapagus. So going by the idea that it's Terrapagus, check this out. We have base Terrapagus, then we have 1 form for Terrapagus, and a second form for Terrapagus, which brings the total to 3. But right now, all we know is normal form Terrapagus and then Terrestrial form Terrapagus, where it's donning all the crystals. This means, or heavily implies, there's a 3rd form for Terrapagus. If 1021 is Terrapagus, which, I mean, it has to be. It's the only Pokemon listed here with the forms required. See, the other 2 written here are 1024, which is Poltergeist, so it has the base form, and then the authentic form, or the masterpiece form, and then Sinistra's base form and its good form. So this kind of has to be Terrapagus unless it's properly been scrubbed from the text files. But we can kind of expect what the 3rd Terrapagus would be. It would be more like Heat's drawing, where it's actual hexagons for once, and then it would get the crown probably. So there really do seem to be 3 forms for Terrapagus. Also, these don't seem to count terraforms, which only Ogerpon has them. But if it did, you know, Ogerpon's slots would be much longer. So that kind of makes it sound like whatever Terrapagus's 3rd form isn't just it terastallizing to get that crown. Seems like it actually has a transformation. So these are all the Pokemon you're gonna need to catch to fill the regional Pokedex in the second DLC. There's a few Pokemon here that aren't shown, like, you know, Kyogre and Groudon, that are secretly in the code of the game, but you don't need them for the Pokedex. And also, you know, Arcaludon and stuff, there's no images for them, so they're just missing. Alright, now we're moving up to level 2 in terms of reading these files. So check this out. It only gets juicier the more we go on. So one thing left in the code of the game is like an amendment made to the move Terra Blast in the text files. The amendment being, this is Terra Blast here, they've added a second variation of Terra Blast, but they've blocked out what it actually does. So the first one, of course, is if the user is terrestrialized, it unleashes the energy of its Terra type and does attack or special attack, whichever is higher. The second one would seem to be a variation if you have the 19th type active, which we know nothing about, but they've left it in the code accidentally. Now, as we saw in the trailer, since it does take up your terrestrial spot, it would seem like this actually becomes your new Terra type. So maybe once your Pokemon gets this 19th Terra type, the description of Terra Blast changes to this, where it will say something like, if the user is terrestrialized, it unleashes the blank type. If this Terra type has its own super effectives and weaknesses, then maybe this description here will kind of simplify it. Or maybe the 19th type just has the function of like dealing boosted damage against Terra Pokemon. So in that case, it would say something like, this move inflicts double damage on terrestrialized Pokemon, you know? Kind of like Zacian and Zamazenta's moves. It's funny how clever Game Freak thinks they are scrubbing whatever they can from the games, but even in the empty blank spaces, the silence is revealing. Let's move on. This is when their silence starts to give us some cold hard facts. The Blueberry League, which consists of these 4 people on screen, we know their typings, what they specialize in. Though we don't know who they belong to, but one is Fairy, probably Lacey, one is Fire, probably Crispin, one is Steel, and one is Dragon. So that's probably for the girl with the Magnemite hair. So he really is Dragon. Since we learned in the DLC that Blueberry Academy is near Unova, maybe he is Drayden's grandson. We've got 9 new camera motes. Your favorite part of your everyday. 23 battle BGMs. I can't fathom this. So maybe this can be a bunch of legendary Pokemon with some function added into the game for you to catch again. Remember I said Kyogre and Groudon and all are secretly still in the code of the game? Maybe just like, you know, Ultra Warp Ride and the Hoopa stuff and Auras, there's a way for you to trigger a bunch of legendaries, and that's what all these BGMs are. You know, one for Tropius, one for a villain, one for the Blueberry League, and then we'll give like 7 to like different locations you can visit. But 23 battle BGMs, there has to be something up. 30 League Club BGMs. Freaking don't even know what that is. And 1 ribbon. This is probably a super fancy ribbon. 8 new outfits. Well, you know, one of them, it's gonna be the Blueberry Academy outfit, which looks nice. If these work for both the male and female, which I'm unsure about, maybe there's just the Blueberry Academy outfit, and then you can kind of copy the outfits of the Blueberry League. 4 different eyewears, 5 gloves, 4 bags, 5 footwear, 10 headwear, 2 legwear, 7 cases. The Teal mask brought in this idea where by wearing different phone cases, your menu can have different backgrounds to them. 6 hairstyles and 6 new clothing colors. And then next up, in terms of Met locations, there's 15 new ones. So this can include different places in the terrarium, for example. They'll be called different things, so when you catch Pokemon, that's where you met them. And then maybe like one of them is somewhere deeper in Area 0. And there's new types of food power that apply to all 18 types simultaneously. It keeps going, guys. Okay, so next up is, you know when the game gives you tutorials and images pop up on screen? Sometimes it's not necessarily a tutorial. So for example, when Parent takes you to Timeless Woods and she shows you the picture of the Ursaluna red moon in the fog, I imagine that's kind of the gist of what these images are. And these are what the images are saved as in the game files. So you have Hagane, which I looked up, we don't know any Hagane. Ridefly. This one maybe has to do with that new mini game. T-type. This might be teaching us the 19th Terra type. Some scanning. Blueberry Point. Maybe when you're getting introduced to Blueberry Academy, they show you some picture. And then there's 4 missions in Blueberry Academy, it seems like. So maybe images to tell you where to go. A freaking club. Item machine. Club PC. S machine. and then photo mode. The blueberry mission here kind of reminds me of in the main game when you have 3 ongoing stories. Now it's just a DLC, so it won't be to that grand scale, but maybe there'll be 4 mini stories. Like let's say the 4 Elite 4 aren't actually at Blueberry Academy. No, they're out exploring or something. So you go on individual missions, get them back to Blueberry Academy, then you can take on the Elite 4. There are 4 new restaurant items, probably like a blueberry donut, and then 10 rooms within the Blueberry Academy campus. I assume this is pretty much the same way it works in our academy, where you have like the cafeteria, then Arvin, Namona are rooms. So 4 of these should be for, wow, this is exactly like the academy, for the Elite 4, and then maybe 1 for like Briar, even though she's a teacher. It really does look like you'll live a mini Naranja and Uva life in this DLC. And then here's some pretty big news here. So there appears to be 3 new battle states in the code. Now, what this means is not certain, but it would sound like it's like what Ogerpon had. Battle states meaning something like a terrestrial form, but nothing's properly known yet. And these are the 3 here. Chodenki Ho and then Kimagu Laser. Now, on the surface, I think these 2 represent Koraidon and Miraidon. This could be implying they have terrestrial forms, which, since Ogerpon's the only one who got it right now, I want to shut up on that, but there's some proper hints in this, so we'll talk about that soon. And then the 3rd one is Tarasu Shell, which sounds short for terrestrialize, and then shell. So this could be a, terraform that Terrapagus gets. But under that understanding, it would kind of be like a 4th form, like a normal terrestrialized form it gets that doesn't include the big hexagon form that we're speculating. But this is pretty big. Forever we've been speculating what terraforms are, and they didn't even actually pop up in the first DLC in the way we thought. Only Ogerpon got it. This is a nice hint towards it actually being something. Then there's a bunch of new names for trainers. So maybe there are battles under these names in the code. So we have Taro, which got me at first, but the first 4 are just the Blueberry Academy Elite 4. So Taro's Lacey, Kakitsubata is that's Drayden, Nerine is Amaris, and then Akamatu is Crispin. Now Shiano sounds like Cyrano. So we fight Cyrano? But yeah, that must be what the 5th one is. And then we have Grandfather and then Gigi Mother. These 2, I don't know. If you're wondering, Briar's name in Japanese is Briar. It's not listed here. Then there's 60 generic battles in the game, maybe spread around the region. 3 that appear to be dragon challenges, 3 fairy and 3 fire. So these are 3 of the Blueberry Elite 4. Maybe these are involved with the side quest that we talked about earlier. And then like side villager 1 and 2. And of course, in the code of the game, finally, there is the 19th type listed. Here's the last one, fairy. Here's a placeholder for when we're terrestrializing. And here is a brand new type blanked out. This is gonna be the 19th type. Anyhow, make sure y'all shank that like button, and it is your last few hours to get this shirt, so don't miss it. But now that we've looked through all the code, we can go deeper. And so I'm gonna make a part 2 to this video where we go deeper, and it's gonna be pretty cool. So I'll see y'all there. Take care.